Now let us see how the multi-way conditional statements works in Python. Before writing the multi-way conditional program, here we have written the program with the nested if-else statements. Okay. So this program is used to convert digit to word. So we know that we can use one if-else condition inside the another if-else condition, or we can use if-else condition in the part of else, means inside the else part. Either we can use if-else condition, one if-else condition inside the another if part of the if-else condition, or in the else part of the another if-else condition. So here we are using one if-else condition inside the another else part of the if-else condition. So look at here, initially we are getting the number from the user from 0 to 5. Okay, so in the range from 0 to 5. Once the user enters the value will be checked initially for its negativity. If the value is less than 0, prints too small. Else, if the value is not less than 0, means if it is positive, then else part will be executed. Okay, so the cursor will check the else part, but inside the else part we have used one more if else condition. Look at here, this is the if else condition. Okay, you can see the if else condition inside the else part of the first if condition, the first if else condition. So this if else is the body of the else part of the first if else condition. If value is equal to 0, means if the value entered is equal to 0, then it will print 0 in word. Else, here the program will not stop after executing the else part, because inside the else part we are using one more if else statement. Okay, if the value is not equal to 0, it will move to the else part. Else, inside the else part we are using one more if else statement, that is nothing but the second if else statement. Okay, this is the 0th if else statement, the initial if else statement, and this is the first if else statement used inside the initial if else statement, and this is the third if else statement. Look at here, the second if else statement. So in order to differentiate, here is the first indentation level, and here you can see the second 2 times the first indentation. So if the value is equal to 1, then it prints 1. If the value is not equal to 1, then else part of this if else condition will be evaluated. So inside the else part again we are using one more if else condition. So look at the indentation level, 3 indentation levels. Okay, if the value is equal to 2, then the body inside the if statement will print 2 in word. Okay, else it will execute the body of the else part. Inside the body of this else part, once again we are using if else statement. Okay, look at the indentation level, 4 indentation levels, first 1, 2, 3 and 4. If the value is equal to 3, then it will print 3 in words. If the value is not equal to 3, then the body of the else part will be evaluated. Inside the body we are using one more if else statement. Okay, so look at the indentation level. So this is the if else statement. If value is equal to 4, then it will print 4, otherwise it will move to the else part. Inside the else part we are using one more if else statement. If value is equal to 5, then the if part will print 5, else the else part will be executed. So inside the else part we have used the last print statement, that is too large, and finally this print statement. This print statement, as we have seen, it is neither the part of any of the if else statement or the if part of the first statement. So here the logic is, inside the else part we have used one more if else conditional. Okay, so look at here, this is the if else condition inside this first else part. Suppose if there is no else part, inside this else first else part only this if condition will be checked. If there is no second else part, means this else, and if the condition is false, then we won't get any output, because if you use only this if else, okay, only if you use only this if condition, and if the if condition becomes false, we will get nothing, okay, as an output, because initially the condition becomes false. Again it will go to the else part and assume that we are using only this if part, not these remaining part, then we won't get any output if the condition becomes false. If this condition becomes true, we will get only this first value, that is 0. If we enter 0, we will get only the output as 0, okay, in words. But we are using 5 if else statements. Look at here, if value is 0, if it is not 0, then the else part of this if else condition will be evaluated. Inside the else part we have used one more if else. So here we are keep on checking the values from 0 to 5. So this is called as a nested if else conditional. Okay, inside the one if else we are using another if else. So we are nesting one if else condition inside the another if else condition. So the innermost if else condition is, if value is equal to 5, then print 5, otherwise print too large. This is the innermost if else condition. This will be executed only if the value is equal to 5. The outermost if else condition is if the value is less than 0, and then else part. Okay, inside outermost if else condition we have used if else condition inside the else part. Hence, if the condition of the outermost if part becomes false, then the condition will not stop, because we have used else part. So inside the else part again we are using if else part, and again inside the second if else part we have used third if else part. So this nesting goes till the checking of the value up to 5. So this is nothing but nested if else condition. And if you observe this word, only these statements, okay, line of codes, else and then if, else if value is equal to 0, print 0, only this one. So here we can see else part. After that we have an if statement. Similarly, if you look at the else part, inside the else part we have body of the else part, that is nothing but if value is equal to 1, print 1. Again look at the else part. Else if value is equal to 2, print 2. Again if you look at the else part, if value is equal to 3, else if value is equal to 3, print 3. Again if you look at the else part, if value is equal to 4, print 4. So here we can observe two types of conditionals. One is if else, okay, if else statement. Another way to look at this program is if and then else if. Look at here, else if condition is false, then look for else if. Else if inside the else, the body of the else is nothing but if value is equal to 0, print 0. Again this else part is optional for this if statement. If value is equal to 0, print 0. This else part is optional, but we are using because we need to check whether the entered value is 0 or not. Again inside this else part we have used one more condition to check. If the value is 1, the entered value is 1, then print 1. And this else part is optional, but we are using to check if the entered value is 2 or not, okay, with the help of this if statement. If value is equal to 2, print 2. Else is the optional part for this if statement, but we are using to check the value entered is 3 or not, okay. Similarly this else part is optional, but we are using to check the value entered is 4 or not. Similarly this else part is optional for this if statement, but we are using to check the value entered is 5 or not. Finally none of the conditions becomes true, then last else part will be evaluated. This else part is optional, so we can print this too large outside this nested if else condition, okay. Here you can print here, but we have used body of the inside the body of the else part in order to show that inside the body of the else part either we can use the statements or we can use another conditions, another if condition or nested if condition or any of the control flow logic, okay. So this is how this nested if else condition works. So here we need to look at the else if part. Else if, else if, else if, else if, else if and else if. So this is the first else if, and this is the second else if, and this is the third else if, okay, and this is the fourth else if, and so on. Let us run this code and see what is the output by entering some value, okay, between 0 to 5. Let us run only this part of the code by selecting and pressing F9. Let us enter the value from 0 to 5. Let us enter 6 this time. So look at here, the entered value is too large, means the program has checked from the value is less than or equal to 0 to if value is equal to 5. None of these conditions are true, so else part of the last the previous one, from the last previous else part has been executed. So this is the innermost if else condition, and before the innermost if else condition we have first outermost if else condition. So the else part of the first outermost if else condition has been executed. So look at here, if value is 5 then print 5, else print too large. So this is the innermost if else condition. Okay, and you can say this as an first innermost, second innermost, third innermost, fourth innermost and fifth innermost, and this is the initial if else conditional, or you can say that outermost if else condition. In reverse also we can read like this: first innermost, second, third, fourth, fifth and then sixth. So if you read in the forward direction, you can say this is the sixth innermost if else condition. If the value entered 5 is not matched, then the innermost sixth innermost else part will be executed. So here print too large because the value entered is 6. If we enter 5, then the if part of the innermost if else condition, that means the sixth innermost if else condition will be executed. Let us run this by selecting the code and pressing F5. So let us enter the value as 5. So look at here. Here the sixth innermost if else condition if part has been executed. This is the if part, print 5. If we enter 4, the fifth innermost if part will be executed. So 4. If this condition becomes true, then the if part will be executed and else part will be ignored. Okay. If we enter 3, then the if part will be executed and the remaining else part will be ignored. And if we enter the value as 2, this if part will be executed and the else part will be ignored. And if we enter the value as 1, this if part will be executed and the else part will be ignored. If we enter 0, then the first if else statement, that is first outermost if part will be executed. Let's run the code. Okay, it is not showing. Okay, let us run this code. Let us enter 0. So look at here, the first if part of the first outermost if else condition has been executed. This is the if part. So we can replace this with the help of multi-way conditional logic, okay, or multi-way decisions. So just now till now what we have discussed is not the multi-way decisional condition. Okay, this is the nested if else conditional. Okay, till now we have discussed about the nested if else conditional statement. So this nested if else conditional can be written alternatively using the else if ladder statement, or we can also call it as a multi-way decision. Okay, multi-way decisions. Multi-way decisions, conditional or statement. Look at here. In this multi-way decisions, we have used else if, what we have shown here. Else if, else if, else if, continuation of the else if, and then finally else part. Okay. So if and then else if, else if, else if, else part. Read as else if, not as if else. Okay, please remember the pronunciation. Else if, not if else. Else if, else if, first if, else if, second else if, third else if, and so on, and finally else part. So look at here. If value is less than 0, print too small. We have already seen here this statement. If value is less than 0, print too small. Next, we are going to check if value is equal to 0 inside the else part in this nested if value is equal to 0, then print 0. Otherwise, go and check else. Go and check whether the value is 1 or not. So look at here, else if value is equal to 0, then print 0. Here else part and then if part combine to form an first else if statement. Look at here, else if value is equal to 0, print 0, and if the value entered is not equal to 0, then else part will be evaluated. Else if value is equal to 1, print 1. So that's why I told you to concentrate on the else if part. Okay, else if value is equal to 1, print 1. This statement has been replaced by else if. Okay, else if conditional. Else if value is equal to 1, print 1. Similarly, inside the else part, if value is not equal to 1, then check for else part. Okay, if value entered is 2 or not. This else if statement has been replaced by else if value is equal to 2, print 2. If the value entered is not equal to 2, check for the remaining condition, that is else if value is 3, print 3. So this condition will be replaced by else if, else part and then if part together will be replaced by else if value is equal to 3, print 3. Similarly, else if value is equal to 4, print 4, and else if value is equal to 5, print 5. Okay, and finally we have an else part. Look at here, else print 2 large. So finally we have an else print 2 large, and this the print statement is out of this nested if condition, and here also this print statement is outside the if and else if ladder or multi-way decision conditional. So you came to know how to write the else if part as elif, else if part as elif. So let us run this code by selecting and pressing F9. Let us enter the value as once again 0. Yes, if value entered, if it is less than 0, prints too small, but it is 0 actually. So less than 0, this statement becomes false. Once this statement becomes false, it go to the else if part. Okay, else if value equal to 0, print 0. Yes, the value is 0, this else if part will be executed. First else if part. Okay, let us rerun this code and enter the value 1. So look at here, the second else if part has been run or executed. Now the second else if part condition becomes true, so the body of this else if part has been displayed. Similarly, let us run this code and enter 3. And now the fourth else if part condition becomes true and this has been executed. If we enter 4, this part will be displayed, and if we enter 5, this else if part will be displayed. If none of the conditions becomes true, then it says too large. For example, if I enter 7, for example, look at here, value is not less than 0 and it is not equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but it is too large. Okay, because none of these conditions are true, hence the else part of this else if ladder has been executed. That means this print statement too large. And finally the print statement done. So this is how the multi-way decisions conditionals work in Python. So logic is very simple. The else part of the nested if else conditions will be replaced by L, and if part of the else conditional, the combination of else and if part will be replaced by L if. It is read as else if instead of if else. Okay, please remember this one. If someone asks you to write using the else if ladder, and if you write else if nested if else if condition, then the program becomes logically correct but theoretically correct but logically not. So logically we have to use else if ladder statement like this. And one more important thing to remember is, suppose if any of the else part becomes false, then remaining else parts will be executed. But if any of the if statement inside the else block is evaluated to true, the remaining if else blocks or else blocks will not be evaluated. For example, here if the entered value is 0, then if statement inside the first else part will be evaluated because the value entered is equal to 0. The remaining statements else if, the remaining else if statements will be ignored, including this last else part. Okay. If the value is not equal to 0, then only the else part of this if condition will be evaluated. Again, if the value entered is equal to 1, then the remaining else part will be ignored. So this type of evaluation is nothing but multi-way decision conditionals. Okay, multi-way decisional conditions. So that can be seen here. So this logic remains same as this logic. So instead of representing in the form of nested if else condition, we are represented in the form of multi-way decision conditionals. Okay, this program is similar to this program, that is multi-way decisions conditions. So this is nested if else conditionals, and this is the multi-way else if ladder conditional. So in these programs, nested else if conditionals and multi-way decisions conditionals are different from sequential if conditionals. Okay, sequential if conditionals. So we will see the difference between the multi-way decisional conditionals and the sequential decisional conditionals. So here we can see the two types of programs. One is the program code using the multi-way conditional statement, and another one using the sequential conditional statements. Look at here, in the first program we are using the multi-way conditional statement, that is if, else if, else if, else if, else if, and then else if. And in the sequential conditional statements we are using if, and then second if, third if, fourth if, fifth if, sixth if, and finally the print statement. So in sequential conditional statements we are just using multiple if statements just below the another if statement. Okay, for example, this is the first if statement, and inside the first if statement there is a body of the first if statement, that is print 0. Below this if statement we are using another if statement. If value is equal to 0, then print the body of this second if statement, and the third if statement below the second if statement, not inside. So please remember the word inside, below, inside, below. This is below the second if statement. Okay, not inside or under. Within and inside both are similar words. Okay, within the, if the second if statement is written within the second if statement, then it becomes nested if condition. Okay, if we write or if we place the second if condition below the first if condition, then it is called as an sequential conditionals. Okay, sequential conditionals means write one condition below the other condition, just in a sequence. Okay, it is not inside the another condition or inside the another loop or within the another loop. Within and inside, both are similar to each other. So we are writing one if condition below the other. But here in multi-way conditional statement, here also we are writing one else if condition below the another else if condition. But this is not the sequential conditional statement. If we write else if, look at the difference. Here only if condition, here else if, the word else if or the condition else if. This else if condition or else if ladder, also called as a multi-way conditional statement, is similar to the nested if conditional. Okay, nested if conditional. Are you getting? What I am going to say is, this multi-way conditional statement is just an alternative way of representing the nested if or nested if else conditional statement. So this is the nested if else conditional statement, and if we replace else if part of this nested if else conditional statement, then it is called as an multi-way conditional statement. Okay, else if part, if we replace this else if part of this nested if else conditional statement, then it becomes multi-way conditional statement or multi-way else if conditional statement. So I think you have got the idea. So now look at the difference between this multi-way conditional statement and the sequential conditional statement. Sequential means using one condition below the other condition. So that is nothing but sequential conditional statement. In multi-way conditional statement, if the value is equal to 1, for example, if I enter the value as 1, then program will stop evaluating the remaining conditions. Okay, as you can see here, if I enter the value 1, then if part will be evaluated and else part will be ignored. So inside this else part we have other if else conditionals, right? Multiple if else conditionals nested one inside the another. Okay, these conditions will be skipped. Okay, they will be ignored or skipped. So we know that this is writing the program in nested if else statement. So the alternative is this one, else if ladder condition, right? This is the alternative way of representing the nested else if conditional statements, right? Hence, if I enter the value 1, then this print statement will be evaluated and the remaining part will be skipped. So similarly here, if I enter the value 1, then this print statement will be evaluated, or this else if part will be evaluated and number 1 in words will be displayed and the remaining else if part will be skipped. If I enter value 2, then only this else if part will be evaluated and the remaining conditional statements will be skipped or ignored. So you can look at here, value is equal to 2, condition has been checked from here to here. Because of the else part, if this condition becomes false, else part will be evaluated. Inside the else part we have used if and else. If this condition is true, this statement will be displayed. Otherwise it will go to next else part. If this condition is true, this print statement will be displayed, otherwise we'll go to next else part. So up to here 3, if enter is equal to 3, if value is equal to 3, then this statement will be evaluated and displayed, and the remaining else if parts will be ignored. Similarly here, if this else if part is true, the remaining else if parts will be skipped, and if the second if else if part is true, the remaining else if parts will be ignored or skipped. So this is the important thing we need to remember about the multi-way conditional statements and the nested if else or nested control flow conditionals, okay, conditional statements. Then what is the difference between the multi-way conditional statements and sequential conditional statements? In sequential conditional statements, even if the value entered is equal to 1, for example here, even if the value entered is equal to 1, then remaining if statements will not be look at here, will not be ignored, they will be evaluated, will not be skipped, they will be evaluated, okay, because this if statement is not written inside or within the second if statement. If value is equal to 1, print 1. So this if statement is different from this if statement. There, what we mean to say is, each if statement in this sequential order are different or separate from each other. So first if statement is separate from the second if statement, second if statement is separate from third if statement, and the third if statement is separate from the fourth if statement. Similarly, all these if statements are separate from each other, they are different from each other, they are not related to each other, there is no interrelationship between each if statement, okay. This is the separate if statement and this is the separate if statement. Look at here, there is no else part here, there is no else part, okay, there is no else part. And also look at the indentation of the first if statement and the second if statement. If you write else part here, then it would have become the if else statement, okay, first if else statement and the remaining sequential if conditionals, okay. This becomes the if else statement and the remaining if conditions becomes the sequential if conditional statements. So observe the code carefully, we have not written any else part. And also look at the indentation, it is the indentation is moving towards the else part, showing that this else part is the part of this first if statement. So are you observing this indentation? Slightly it is showing the line, okay. Now if I enter the value s2, then this condition becomes true, then the body of this print statement will not be evaluated, and this condition becomes true, the second if statement, the body of the second if statement will not be displayed, but value is equal to 2 becomes true, the body of the third if statement will be displayed, and it will keep on checking the third if statement, fourth if statement, and up to the last if statement. So these if statements will not be skipped, suppose if the value is equal to true, because they are separate. In sequential conditional statements, each conditional statement will be checked for its truth or false statement, okay, whether the condition is true, checked for true or false condition, whether they are true or false. Whereas in multi-way conditional statements, if one else if condition becomes true, then the remaining else if conditions that are below the other else if conditionals will be skipped or ignored, but that is not the case in sequential conditional statements. All the if statements or all the control flows will be evaluated. So that is the difference between multi-way conditional statements versus sequential conditional statements. So let us see here, for example, if I select and run this program with the input as, for example, 2. So look at here, only this condition has become true and the remaining parts have been skipped, and the print statement which is outside of this control flow has been executed. Suppose if I select this program and run, and if I again use the same value, that is 2, then it prints only this statement, that is 2, the value 2, and the print statement which is outside of this if sequential conditional statements. But how to evaluate whether they are working in the same way or not? So according to the logic, whether they are working as per the logic or not. So in order to illustrate this, so here we have written the simple programs to show how they work, okay, how the multi-way versus the sequential conditional statements operate in Python. So here is the multi-way conditional statement, that is first the line of code will check whether the number is equal to 1, then it will print entered 1. If the number is equal to 2, using else if statement, it will print the entered value is 2, that is we entered 2. If the number is greater than 5, using else if the number is greater than 5, it says you entered a number which is greater than 5. If the number is equal to 7, using another else if statement, it will print you entered 7. Finally, else part, we entered some other number. If we enter some other number which are not equal to 1, 2, 5 or 7, it displays you entered some other number. For example, if we enter 4, then it will display you entered some other number, because 4 is not equal to 1, 2, 5 and 7, because 4 is not greater than 5 also. Suppose if we enter 7 here, for example, assume here, if I enter 7 instead of 1, 2, 4, then condition here becomes true, because the entered value 4 becomes greater than 5. So in that case, as we have seen the analysis of else if ladder or else if multi-way conditional statements, once the condition becomes true in any of the else if part, the remaining else if parts will be skipped. So if I enter the value 7, here the condition becomes true with the second else if part, okay. So the remaining else if conditionals will be skipped or ignored, but that is not the case with respect to the sequential if conditional statements. Okay, this is multi-way and this is sequential. So in sequential if statements, if I enter the value as 4, this condition will be evaluated because this condition becomes true and this print statement will be displayed. Again, the remaining conditions will also be evaluated because this is an sequential if statement. Okay, again the cursor will move on to check whether the number entered is 4 or not. So this condition becomes false and this condition will not be evaluated, and finally the else part will be evaluated. Okay, suppose if I enter 7, then this part will also be evaluated, this part will be printed because this condition becomes true. Again the number will be checked with 7. Yes, 7 is equal to 7. This statement will be evaluated. Since this condition becomes true, here number is equal to 7, this condition becomes true, this else part will be skipped because this is the last if else statement. Okay, we have placed else part only in the last if condition, not inside the any other if condition. So this is nothing but sequential if conditional statement. So let us see how this works by selecting and running the program. Select and run using F9. Let us enter the number 7 for example here. So look at here, we entered a number greater than 5 because this condition becomes true. Yes, obviously 7 is greater than 5, so this condition becomes true. Only this part has been executed and the print statement is displayed, not these two. Okay, else if number is equal to 7, actually this should evaluate, but because of this multi-way conditional statement, the logic is like this. If the condition of this else if becomes true, then remaining else if part will be ignored. So this is similar to an nested else if conditional statements. Okay, because each and every else if part are nested inside another else if part, but instead of nesting here using else if one inside the another, we are just replacing all these else if statements, writing one below the other using this statement else if. So that is the only difference. Okay, else if, else if, else if. So this is the way how we need to write the else if statements. So this is the rule. Okay, it is not it does not mean that we have written else if one below the other. Yes, it is the rule. We need to write else if statements which is similar to like this, else if statement inside below the another else if statement. Okay, so here look at the logic. If number is greater than 5, only this print statement has been displayed and the last else if statements have been skipped. But this is not true in case of sequential if statements. Okay, let us select this and run the code. Let us enter once again 7. Look at here, this condition, this if condition becomes true, number is greater than 5, then the print statement has been displayed. Because it is true, the body of this if statement will be evaluated, and you can see the body of this if statement, that is entered a number greater than 5. Similarly, number is 7, the entered number is 7, this condition also becomes true. So this if statement also becomes true, and the body of this print statement will be evaluated. So that is nothing but you entered 7, and this else part will be neglected because it is placed inside the last if statement. So this last if and else part, they together will form an if else condition. Okay, up to here, if these are nothing but the sequential if conditional statements. So this is the difference between multi-way versus the sequential conditional statements in Python, and this is how the multi-way conditional statements and the sequential conditional statements works in Python.